That's why you need deep magic.
Companies, for decades or even hundreds of years, they've been around, providing us with products or services, advertising them as we see on these old ads. And while some companies may have a social responsibility goal, most of them have one main objective: profit. And some are very successful at it, becoming one of the biggest or the actual biggest company in their country. That is what this video is about. If you want to skip the explanation, you can go straight to the overview or to the view by continent through the timestamps in the description. I promise this time I remember to write them down right away. Now, your eyes probably jumped to your country to check if it is correct. And I'll be honest with you, the answer is I don't know. I'm not 100% sure about the author of this map. Apparently, it was made by this British company, Radiospace Components. Before we keep going with the video, a quick message about today's sponsor, War Planet Online. War Planet Online is a free-to-download military real-time MMO strategy game set on a real-world map. Right now, they've partnered with Terminator 2, which took over the game for an exclusive action-packed experience full of missions and rewards, like the T-800 Terminator Skull merchandise or the T-1000 model. Play with or against other players from all over the world, fight merciless Terminators, and stop Judgment Day. Sarah Connor herself is a part of the game as your technical advisor. You have to build and defend your base, create an unbeatable army, and help the resistance in the war against the machines to save the world. War Planet Online is interesting because it's simple and easy to pick up, but it has a very high skill cap and actually requires strategic thinking as you go on with the game. It's available on mobile and PC, so if you want to play, you can do it anywhere. Download the game through the link in the description and try it out. Thank you to them for sponsoring this video, and now back to the companies. They list their sources and they seem pretty credible. I've posted a link to them in the description if you want to check for yourself, and they do identify the main criteria: market capitalization, which means the value of the company in the stock market. If this information wasn't available, they used the company with the highest revenue in the country. But keep two things in mind. One, this data is from 2019. It might be outdated, especially taking into account the events of the past 2 years. For instance, I found a reference stating that France's biggest company is no longer L'Oreal, but instead LVMH, or that Canada is no longer the Royal Bank and now Shopify. I'll try to mention these changes as much as possible when we go country by country later on in the video, using a more limited but also more recent map. And two, the data might just be wrong, so keep critical thinking in mind and let me know in the comments if you notice any mistakes. The map is immediately divided into 10 categories: automotive, banking and finance, freight and transport, oil, gas and energy, pharmaceuticals, retail and consumer goods, steel and mining, technology, telecoms, and other sectors. And then in black are countries with no data. So how many of these biggest companies does each sector have? Automotive seems to only have around 3. Banking and finance is quite common, with 36 countries having their biggest company in that sector. Freight and transport only around 4. Oil, gas, and energy are also pretty common, with 21 countries. Pharmaceuticals is also rare, with only 3. Retail and consumer goods are the biggest company in about 12 nations. Steel and mining in 7. Technology in 8, and communications in 10. 5 countries have their biggest company in the other non-specified sectors, and many are missing information. Only around 123 countries have their biggest company identified in this map. And remember, some countries' biggest companies are much bigger than others, and maybe the top 100 biggest companies in the US are way bigger than the number 1 biggest company in Kyrgyzstan. So keep in mind that these aren't the biggest companies in the world, just the biggest one in each single country individually worldwide. So now let's go continent by continent and take a closer look at each region, identifying a few interesting examples in some of the countries and their respective biggest company. Starting with Europe, the first thing that jumps to sight is the predominance of green, meaning most countries have their biggest companies in the energy sector. Next would be red, banking and finance, and many countries have their national bank as their biggest company, or other private banks. There are, however, a few exceptions. France's biggest company, according to this, is L'Oreal, the cosmetics company. In Spain, it is Inditex, a clothing company that owns several brands and stores, while Iceland's biggest company is a food processing one. And then we have the other sectors. Germany's SAP is a software corporation which makes, well, software to manage business operations and customer relations. We all know Nokia from Finland and their legendary old phones. And Latvia's Elko is an IT and consumer electronics product distributor. The odd ones out are Denmark's Novo Nordisk, a pharmaceutical company, Sweden's Atlas Copco, actually very old. It was founded in 1873 and it manufactures industrial tools and equipment. Bulgaria's Sopharma and Romania's Dacia, car manufacturers. Oh, and apparently Malta's biggest company is their airport, demonstrating the importance that tourism has in the country's economy. Although this is an interesting point, the single biggest company might not always represent the importance of its sector in the country. Portugal's biggest company might be an energy provider, but their top 10 might be full of commercial and tourism companies, sectors that are highly relevant for its internal economy. Recent changes may, however, have taken place. In this other map, Roche is listed as Switzerland's biggest company, also in the pharmaceutical sector, replacing Nestle, and in the UK, AstraZeneca. The pharmaceutical sector may have had a growth boost in many countries due to the reality of the past couple of years. Next, Asia. A few key countries are missing here, but we do have a good amount of information. South Korea, Taiwan, and Israel are the only three with their biggest company in the technology sector. South Korea's being the well-known Samsung. China is pointed as Alibaba's, the commercial services website, but in newer data, Tencent, also in the technology sector, is pointed as the biggest Chinese company. Tencent is the world's largest video game vendor, as well as one of the most financial valuable companies. Its services include social networks, music, e-commerce, mobile games, internet services, payment systems, smartphones, and multiplayer online games, pretty much everything technology related. The Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia have their biggest company in the finance sector, although the Philippines may have changed to a consumer goods company called Investments Corporation. Japan's is Toyota, the very well-known car manufacturer. Vietnam, Sri Lanka, and Turkey are in the others category. Vingroup focuses on technology, industry, real estate development, retail, and services ranging from healthcare to hospitality, demonstrating somewhat of a trend of the biggest company being a corporate group that may operate in a general sector, but sometimes in many areas of that sector, or even various sectors at once. Bangladesh seems to be the only Asian country that has a communications company as its biggest one, while Armenia and Kyrgyzstan are the only two in mining. Iron for Armenia and gold for Kyrgyzstan. Thailand, India, Iran, and Saudi Arabia are in the oil/energy, while Iraq's is Baghdad's soft drink company. The remainder of the Middle East's biggest national companies are in the financial sector. Then Oceania, where the data is extremely limited. Only Australia and New Zealand are represented. Australia's biggest company is the BHP Group, a mining, metals, and petroleum extraction company, a rare case of one of the biggest economies in the world having its biggest company within the extraction sector. BHP is a good example of how this isn't representative of the biggest companies of the entire world and merely individually by country. It is Australia's biggest company, but in the 2020 Forbes data, the BHP Group was ranked as the 93rd largest public company in the world, a long way away from the top. New Zealand's is the Westpac Banking Corporation in the finance sector, but more recent data points to it being Xero, which is a cloud-based accounting software platform for small and medium-sized businesses. Moving to Africa, there's a big area of missing information in black, and the rest of the continent is somewhat of a patchwork of different sectors in which each country's biggest company operates. I think literally all of the 10 sectors are present, from Tanzania's breweries, the Lucara Diamond Group in Botswana, or Air Mauritius. South Africa stands out as having the only #1 technology company. Naspers, Nigeria's Dangote Cement, and Algeria's Biofarm are also outliers, as well as the Republic of Congo with their group CFAO, which operates in the automotive sector. Africa also has something that is rare in other continents. Many countries have a telecommunications company as their biggest company, like Maroc Telecom in Morocco. South America is missing information for Ecuador and Bolivia, as well as Suriname and Guyana. Argentina is the only one with a technology #1, Mercado Libre, an online marketplace, and Chile the only one in the commercial sector with Falabella. It seems to be a store that sells pretty much everything from clothes to technology. The rest are in the banking sector: Peru, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Venezuela, which I was surprised does not have oil extraction as its biggest company, which is the case for Colombia and Brazil. Well, oil/energy energy production and distribution. Important to point out, however, that newer data points to Vale being Brazil's new biggest company, which engages in metals and mining and is one of the largest logistics operators in the country. And in Chile, Falabella may have been surpassed by Enel, an energy provider which seems to focus on renewable energy. If so, great for them. And finally, North and Central America. Central America and the Caribbean are very lacking in this map. Only the Corporación da Vivienda is shown for Costa Rica, an insurance company, and the NCB Financial Group for Jamaica, while Bermuda has the Marvell Technology Group, which develops and produces semiconductors. The most recent map points to Copa Airlines being Panama's biggest company, surprising me as there is no reference to their canal, a similar surprise to Egypt, with the company in charge of the Suez not being the biggest in the country. Mexico's biggest company here is América Móvil, which provides telecommunication services. More recently, it may have been surpassed by Walmart Mexico. The United States is Apple, while Canada is either the Royal Bank or, more recently, the technology company Shopify, an e-commerce platform for online stores. So, that is, according to this map, the biggest company in each country, which sectors they are a part of, and what they might or might not represent for the country's economy. In some cases relating to important facts about the country, like Norway's oil reserves or Spain's textile industry, and sometimes being totally unrelated to the economy of that nation as a whole. Also teaching us a little bit about the various interesting companies located in many countries throughout the world. Sometimes they're ones we would never learn about otherwise, like New Zealand Zero or Costa Rica's Corporación da Vivienda, allowing us to understand that should the map be accurate, most countries have an energy or a financial company as their internal number one. But are these correct? The sources that are listed seem reliable, but the reality may have changed since 2019. If you know from additional research or personal experience, let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you want, and I will see you next time for more general knowledge.